Oh my God. Here's some crazy shit. Take a look at this newspaper. Do you see the spelling mistake in that headline? Cigarrette, not cigarettes. Do you see who wrote the name? Who wrote the article there? Me. This was, I think, the first article I ever wrote for a newspaper. I was also the editor-in-chief of this newspaper. I was responsible for this newspaper. My first publication job. What a crazy shit story that was. It all began my freshman year in high school. I volunteered to help on the newspaper, and they liked how I helped. I did a lot of the production work, helping things out. And so my sophomore year, they asked me to be the archivist of the newspaper. And they said, you have to help just keep the history of the newspaper. So what I did was I just cut up all the articles and put them into folders. I organized them all by categories. I had newspapers going back to 1959 when we had issue 1. And I got everything organized really nicely. All the articles from all the years, all the newspapers, it was really set up nice. People have said I might be the best newspaper archivist ever. I was very proud of that. Anyway, my junior year, they asked me to be the production manager. Production manager was responsible for making sure the paper got published, physically got published. So we had a typesetting machine where all the articles were typed into this one machine, and the articles printed on special photographic paper of some sort, and it would print out in paper. It would print in columns, individual columns. And then we would take those columns and put them onto a layout table, and we would paste the columns onto the table, onto the special layout paper. And then we just paste it, literally, we have paste and we literally paste it out. When we found a mistake, like a spelling mistake, we would go to the typesetting machine and print out the corrections. And then we would come and we would cut it really carefully, put some paste on it and put it down to cover up the mistake. It was very simple. That was real cut, copy, and paste. That's where those terms come from, because when you're making newspapers in the old days, you really cut, copy, and pasted. Literally, physically. Well, anyway, that was my job, making sure the newspaper got put together, sent off to the publisher so it can be printed. I did a really good job at that. I really carried the whole newspaper. I didn't write anything, but I made sure that paper got published. I did such a good job that for my senior year, they asked me to be editor-in-chief. However, my language skills weren't very good. I couldn't write very well. Strange. I want to be a writer, but I couldn't write very well. Well, anyway, they asked another student, a classmate of mine, to be co-editor-in-chief. He was a very good writer, but he wasn't very good on the production side. He wasn't very good at actually getting things done, but he could write well, and he was a good editor. He can read well. So we were a team. We were two co-editors-in-chief. So we had the idea of publishing on day 1 of school at the end of summer. And people really didn't like that idea, but they thought it was cool, so they went along with it, which it meant that we had to work during the summer. So we wrote articles and we did everything. We got the newspaper ready to go, and just before day 1, and we read the newspaper over and over and over again. We even had a teacher come in and read the newspaper. But again, we were rushing it. We were pushing it. We wanted it out on the first day. When students came to school, we wanted the newspaper there for them. So we went and published it, but we didn't check it carefully enough. And if you see on the front page, right there, the first word, cigarette. Cigarette smoking is banned. There used to be a place in school where high school students could go, and like a little place off to the side. They call it the Lidge, where people can go smoke cigarettes during their breaks. Well, they stopped that. And that was a big to-do. That was big news. So I wrote the article for that. I interviewed the principal. I had that article out. And then, doom, there was that mistake. And I didn't see the mistake. No one saw the mistake until it was published. I'll never forget. I saw my English teacher, and he said, cigarettes? And I was like, what? He was saying, cigarettes are banned? What? And I'm like, what? Cigarettes, they only have 1 R, and he pointed to this, only 1 R, and I was so embarrassed. It was terrible. I was so ashamed. And then we discovered all kinds of other mistakes in the newspaper. It was horrible. But anyway, we went on. We we published several more issues that during the first semester of school. And each time we published it, it was full of mistakes because we were rushing it too much. I wanted to meet these deadlines. No matter what, I wanted to meet the deadlines, even if we didn't check it carefully enough. This caused some conflict with some faculty, but I insisted. I was so stubborn. We had to get it out. We had to get it out. We had to get it out. I was like a real newspaper man. Perhaps, thankfully, our typesetting machine broke, and we didn't get it fixed until the following school year after I had graduated already. So we only printed newspapers for the first semester. Second semester, there were no newspapers. But in the end, I felt really good about that. It was kind of a crazy shit story, but it's my story.